Hi. So, how celiacs impacts nutrition is probably like the main way from the outside you think that gluten impacts people with celiac disease. So it's a protein found in wheat, rye, barley, and triticale, which is a mix between wheat and rye. Um, and if you think about all the things that have wheat or rye or barley, it's just so much that's everywhere that we eat. And so it makes it a lot harder for people. Um, so it definitely minimizes the amount of food that they can eat when they go out or when they're just at the grocery store, and that makes it a lot harder for them. Um, from more of a scientific standpoint, people with celiac disease, when they eat gluten, or have celiac disease in general, it makes their body, it makes it harder for them to absorb nutrients from the food that they're eating. Um, so on a short term level, it impacts their everyday life because it makes it a lot harder for them to find things to eat, or they have to meal prep every time they eat. Um, but over a long period of time, it also impacts you because your body has absorbed less nutrition over a period of a year or 10 years. So it's constantly something that people with celiac disease have to think about and consider. Um, Typically, they lack a lot of key vitamins and minerals that people without celiac disease can absorb and have a larger amount in our bodies, such as iron, calcium, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin B12, magnesium, folate, all these things that our body naturally produces, um, that theirs doesn't, or doesn't absorb as well in the food and drink that they consume. So, celiac disease is a disease in which your body rejects everything that contains gluten, and it attacks the major lining of your small intestine. So, in order to live comfortably without experiencing those symptoms of eating gluten, you have to take all of it out of your diet, which, like I mentioned, makes it a lot harder. And it's to get a lot of that nutrients, you have to constantly be thinking about what you're eating and having to make very smart choices. It impacts you. Um, Overall, it impacts your nutrition because if you eat it, your body is unable to absorb the nutrients the same as if we were to eat that same food with gluten. And celiac disease in general makes it harder for your body to absorb it even if you are all the right things. So in order to get the nutrients that you need without consuming it, you have to adopt a gluten-free diet. Um, be really on top of all the things that you're eating, be super aware. Really hard because if you think about our lifestyle and the things that people without celiac disease are able to just go anywhere and eat whatever, and repercussions, but any short term except maybe feeling bad or maybe not really any long term, like a weight problem or not a lot of will to have physical activity. Aside from that, you're pretty good. So, a gluten-free lifestyle. Now, I know that gluten-free is very rampant and super prevalent in our society now. Earlier in the presentation, Michaela mentioned that 1 in 100 people have celiac disease, but a lot of people choose to eat gluten-free because it cuts out all of like the carbs in your diet. So for a lot of people, that's very appealing, and if they have a reason to stick to it, then that can be very beneficial for their health and their wellness. Um, so gluten-free diet includes a lot of fruits and vegetables, beans, seeds, unprocessed natural nuts, um, eggs, no lunch meat, so like non-processed meats, fish, poultry, lean meat, and most low-fat dairy products. And then under here you'll see there's a list of all the grains that are gluten-free. Um, which is nice. There's a lot of other options. This rice, soy, corn, potato, and bean flours, those are all flours that are made of other products that are gluten free. So that's great. Um, and you can still eat grains and still eat a lot of these products as long as they're gluten free, which is great. There's still the option. You don't have to cut it out totally. It's just harder because it's one more step, one more thing you have to look for, one more thing you have to know how to cook or learn how to cook. And I love to cook, so that's like, oh, that sounds fun. But for people who don't know how to cook or don't have the time or have a family, it's a lot harder to go to those lengths to find these extra things, to spend the extra money on gluten-free products. It's a lot. And when you're required to do it for your own health and not just for a diet choice, it's a lot more difficult and could be frustrating. Um, Gluten-free diet does not include anything with wheat, barley, rye, triticale, and oats in some cases. And those cases are oats are naturally gluten-free, but a lot of companies and corporate or factories that produce things that also produce things that have wheat, barley, rye, and triticale in them. So it's easiest if you just cut that out, or you're like very adamant about getting gluten-free oats, because it's still the same oat, it's just not processed in a place that has other things processed there. So why a gluten-free, oh, okay, stay. Why a gluten-free lifestyle could be difficult is because gluten is everywhere. It's in everything, and you don't think about it until you have to be hyper aware. Um, so here's a list of things, but I'll just kind of pull out some interesting ones. All beer. So, like, if you're a beer lover, you have to drink gluten-free beer, which in this day and age, there is such a rampant celiac disease gluten-free movement. Um, so there are a lot of gluten-free options, but still at the average place, it's harder to find and it is going to be more expensive. Candy, breakfast cereal. A lot of people eat breakfast cereal every morning, and that's like just not an option. You have to get the gluten-free option. Um, there was communion wafers. Like, if you are a regular churchgoer, you can no longer use communion. You have to bring your own, which is, a hassle and could kind of impact the way that you see this religious memento. Um, Salad dressing, sauces, poultry that's already been self-basted. So when you just go to the store and buy like marinated chicken, even if it's not a processed meat, you still probably can't have that as an option. Soups, pasta, french fries, like there's just so many things that are part of your everyday life. And before you were diagnosed with celiac disease, could have been a major part of your diet, or things that you really love that you have to look for an alternative, or it's going to be really difficult depending on the area and United States that you live in. How celiac disease impacts physical activity. So celiac disease not only impacts what you can consume and the food that you can consume, but it also has a really big impact on your body. The negative symptoms that Michaela mentioned earlier are really tough. So celiac disease can impact your will to exercise because it affects your appetite, your energy levels. It can impact your mental health, your nervous system, and as a whole, your overall body function. So there's two main ways that they can do that celiac disease impacts your body. It over time can create chronic and acute pain, fatigue, and bruising. All those with celiacs are much more prone to have this acute pain, this chronic pain, which I have chronic pain in my back, and it's really hard to find the will to exercise because you're afraid if you feel good this day that if you exercise you could make it worse, or if you're not feeling so great already you definitely don't want to, and this chronic pain, this acute pain is really debilitating, and you don't have any will to do anything after that, which is really frustrating for people who like to be active or like to go outside or not even be on a regular workout plan, but just go on a hike or go kayaking, like things that they can't do anymore. And the second way would be exercising can exacerbate the symptoms of celiac disease, such as allergies. So over time, if you continue to exercise, even if you don't have this chronic or acute pain, allergies can become more impactful for those who choose to exercise. So if you're outside and you're exercising, it could make it a lot worse for you. And that is the end of our presentation about celiac disease. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. I know celiac disease is really prevalent today, so I really enjoyed learning about this and learning about how it impacts a lot of people, and how it impacts their diet and their nutrition and all the things that they can do moving forward in their life to live a happy and healthy lifestyle.